They do a sketch called Acquaintances that is just about shitting on friends.
Yeah. But like, come on, friends.
Yeah. It was a good sketch.
Yeah.
Out of every show we've covered so far, these two might truly be the heart and the soul of the 1990s. Today, Austin Hargrave, Barry Kramer, Alex Faciane, and Shane Gill join me, Forrest Lee, as we decide which of these amazing classics advances. It's Animaniacs versus Hey Arnold, and this is madness.
I don't really have a clever intro for this one. They're just both real good. It's Animaniacs and Hey Arnold.
We feel like we're about to like make a bad
Yeah.
choice right
Yeah.
now. This is rough.
I feel like
we're careening towards a ravine.
Do all of us have like first points when we jump in?
I feel like a burglar broke into my house and told me I need to kill one of my kids.
These two shows are like the two shows that anyone who's grown with cartoons can go back and watch because everything about them is so evergreen. Arnold, you'd think, like some people, if you haven't watched Hey Arnold in a while, you start to think, oh, it's probably going to be like one of those other shows from the 90s where it kind of has milded down a little bit. But honestly, going back and watching it recently, the jokes are hilarious. The characters are like, they stand up to like adult watching. It's so good. And Animaniacs is basically known for that quality. It's like, you know, Steven Spielberg was involved. He got some good writers in there.
Yeah. How insane is it that Steven Spielberg was like, I want to make a cartoon. Let's make a cartoon.
He did
some weird
a bunch
cat
of times.
things.
He did it a bunch of
And
times.
they basically created the Warner Brothers Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
Like family.
Yeah.
They
from
made
Animaniacs.
a water tower exciting.
Yeah.
That's no small
That's the thing I remember the most about the show, other than some of the like bits, just like a couple individual bits, is that they lived in a water tower.
Yeah, and it's a real water tower. You
And-
drive by a lot, you're like, that's where they live. It's like it's a water tower. They used to have sets that were very flammable back in the day.
And let's be real, it's a fucking sketch show. Like
absolutely.
Somehow they were able to do like almost like the SNL thing of like creating famous
riffing on popular
Some
culture.
sketches.
Other
Yeah.
cartoons that didn't make this bracket came from spin-offs of Animaniacs. Pinky and the Brain.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can't think of any others right now.
The Three Pigeons.
The
Yeah.
the Mafia
Good
Pigeons.
Feathers, the
They
Good
had their own
Feathers.
show.
Did they have
I
them?
don't know. Maybe.
Oh.
Well, it was
They
But
could
you're
have.
saying like
Maybe
the,
they
like the
did.
sub characters. Okay,
It's
sorry.
just like
they're saying like
SNL.
they got their own show.
Slappy the Squirrel.
Just like SNL, like you were saying, they have these characters that are like intrinsic parts of this show that are as iconic as the Wacko.
Yeah, Chicken Boo.
Yeah.
Good idea, bad idea.
The mad scientist and the hello nurse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, the
I didn't even know that was
psychiatrist.
from Animaniacs.
Oh yeah, it is.
The guy who talks like this.
Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah, I went back and like I was expecting it to kind of be one of those shows where you're like, it didn't live up. But I was like, wow, this is like exactly my humor. It's just sarcastic and lampoons pop culture.
Yeah, it's
Dated pop culture,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Bill Clinton's in the theme song.
Is he?
Yeah, Bill Clinton plays the sax. It's Animaniacs.
Oh my god.
I suppose it would be wise to start at the very beginning, yeah?
Point is, Animaniacs has more going for it than just plot characters,
Yeah.
stuff like that. It has more characters that are more memorable than most shows that are barely even in the show. The dog and the kid, remember that? The kid who gets in danger all the
Yeah.
time, and the dog's
Yeah.
like the squirrel with
Very
the
like Looney Tunes kind of.
Aunt Slappy with the purse, and she's like, the shittiest squirrel. Like, there's just so many things in the show that are like iconic, excellent. The capitals.
Yeah,
I think of the countries of the
countries.
world.
That's
Yeah.
the thing I think of the first.
It's just
That
like.
guy,
And you actually learn some. Always remember Guam because from that cartoon.
Who voiced Wacko?
What's his? Very famous.
Rob Paulson.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
Rob
say. He can still do that because imagine how many times he had to do the countries.
He did it updated recently, and it was pretty good. He did it sitting
Because
on
some
the
of those
stool.
countries don't exist
Oh,
anymore. do they?
like
USSR.
East Germany.
Yeah. Yeah.
Politics.
Yeah. But going back to frickin'
Hey Arnold.
Hey Arnold.
Okay. Yeah. Something
Hey Arnold!
Something I wanted to say about Hey Arnold is I think almost more than any other show, maybe Batman, Hey Arnold deals with themes that none of these other shows even bothered it.
It has a
It's a
very-
pretty adult theme.
It's a
yeah,
pretty
honestly.
emo show, yeah.
I'd say it has a strong, probably out of all the shows, it has the strongest moral core. Like
Yeah.
it focuses heavily on morality.
At the risk of causing Austin to get up and storm out of this room, I think it does Arthur better than Arthur.
How much Arthur did you watch, though?
And
Watch
Doug,
a little bit of that musical in between episodes.
Yeah,
this is
that's
pretty solid.
I just wanted to get that out there.
But
No.
it's like it touches on a lot of these social issues, these themes, these conflicting personalities. And
It definitely touches on more serious topics than Arthur.
it's not a fair comparison. I'm pushing
And one
down.
thing, I was actually going to compare it to Arthur to an extent, where it's a similar style of show, but I do like that it touches some more serious topics. But I also like that it had a little bit more magic to it, like at times. Like I remember even like the pigeon guy, like he flies away at the
Yeah.
end. Like what the heck? That would happen in Arthur. Arthur was very grounded in reality, and anytime they had weird stuff, it was always dreams.
except that they're animals.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like there might have been a
But-
bird character that flew.
Yeah,
away.
You know,
but in Hey Arnold, like that stuff just happened, and you're like, okay.
And you know what
that
I
happened.
loved the most about that is when you go back as an adult and watch that, like we were talking about Bird Guy flying away, but that's an allegory for suicide.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That,
yeah.
like,
That's what it covers these dark topics,
Yeah.
but hides them so that you don't. It's still okay for kids, but
Yeah.
it touches on
Yeah.
those subjects.
Yeah,
It also definitely doesn't do the thing that we've been talking about with like clips being sufficient. Like
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Arnold is episodes.
You have
and
to watch.
It has continuity throughout the whole show. There are like mysteries that like as a kid I didn't even like think about, like
Pick
his
up on.
parents and stuff like that. Like it got a movie recently. You know, like this is a show with the Hey Arnold
2017,
movie
I think they
came
announced
out
that.
last
Yeah,
year.
wow.
It's
Yeah.
out. It's out.
Wasn't
You
it
can
like about
watch
his
I didn't know
parents
it
or
was out.
something?
it.
'Cause-
It wraps the show up. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. But Hey Arnold really has a good sense of place too. Is the other thing I wanted to say. Is like
Oh,
it takes
yeah.
place in like what is it, New York or
Yeah, it's
Seattle?
New
or
York.
something?
It's
Yeah.
supposed
in
to be
New York.
Was it
Yeah.
PS 118? Was their
Yeah,
school?
and it really feels like Hey Arnold, like Arnold and Helga and Gerald and all these characters actually do live in that city,
Yeah.
and they
Well, you learn a lot of these environments really
yeah,
well.
It's accurate to what it would be like.
I grew up in like, I don't want to say suburban because it was kind of close to a city, but basically suburban South,
Yeah,
and it was so alien seeing. Like I was learning about this other world.
yeah,
Basically, it was cool.
yeah.
Yeah, like I'd never had the experience of living, like seeing people living in like a building together. That's
Well, and there's also something so cool about how Arnold lived in this building. It was like a retirement community, right?
It's like a It's like a. I think it's like a private apartment with like a lot of old.
Maybe that's what it
families.
was.
Yeah.
But he had like his own like little like area up on the top, like his own personal little
His room
penthouse,
was
which
so
was the
cool.
coolest room ever.
Yeah.
His best
But it was like
grandpa
his little like
ran the
escape
building.
from the hustle and bustle of not
He
only
had-
the city but the building.
that
It's
room
just
would have
so cool.
sucked.
Yeah, in
The
reality.
sun would have been coming in all
Didn't
the
he
time.
sleep
It'd be
on a
covered-
couch or something?
I
Yeah,
think
like
so.
up in his room. Yeah.
And that window thing would be just covered in bird shit. Cleaning it every morning.
Especially in New York, yeah.
Yeah.
But also, I want to point out that Arnold has equal parts shitty people and good people in it too,
Yes.
which is not
And a
how-
lot of shades of gray.
Yeah, that's
too.
not how Arthur really does it. If we're gonna compare like the sort of saccharine thing of Arthur to like Arnold's sort of realistic kind of thing, like there's a lot of adults that like Arnold, who's pretty much a good kid, has to like contend with. He'll have to be like, oh man, this guy's like a kid. Like his coach or whatever is kind of like a
He's
shithead.
very conscientious.
Yeah, yeah. It's just a really cool sort of bold thing that they did, and of course it has, because it's so episode based. It has those episodes: Stoop Kid, the Downhill Race, the Birdman. What's the name of the musician? The jazz guy. Dino Spumoni. Yeah.
Thank you, off camera, Gerard.
Yeah, that's another like really big one for him. It has also like characters that really do have growth, like Helga. Really is a complex character if you think about it, because
Very.
the relationship of
I-
bullying and obsession is like
Yeah, I wanted to touch on, you were talking about their bad people on that show. Helga and how horrible she is at the beginning of that show, she's very much a product of, like, favoritism from her parents to her sister, and her dad's horrible, and her mom's an alcoholic.
It
and
really-
She's dealing with that by, like, obsessing about Arthur, who's a pretty good kid.
And she doesn't want to be confident in her
Yeah,
own emotions,
yeah.
so she takes it out on
Yeah.
him. It's crazy.
she's like Skeletor, where like
That's it.
You're gonna have to elaborate on this one quite a bit.
explain that. She's like Skeletor in that she is the villain of
Yeah,
Hey Arnold.
yeah.
But when the real villains come, she automatically is a good kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She like in
She's
the real
the foil.
in the real world,
Yeah.
when the kids have to face the outside world, she goes on the kids' side.
Yeah.
But in the world of the kids, she is the villain. That's kind of how I see her.
It really, I remember one of the more memorable episodes to me was the episode where you really dive into Helga and her sister comes and visits, and then
Oh yeah, her older sister.
yeah, and then eventually they bond by the end of it, where she explains her side, like, you know, it's also a lot of pressure for me, like, because I was always expected to do this, so I felt like I have to, and I can't enjoy my life, and that's like something that I think a lot of people totally relate to, this sort of perfectionism as well. And it really is deeper than you would think on the surface. I didn't watch the show as a kid, but I have seen some of it more recently, and it's honestly a really...
Hey Arnold's a beautiful show.
Yeah, it's emotional too.
But is it better than the Animaniacs? Because I don't want to say that.
But is it the best N64 game?
The essence of the N64.
Is that Pro Jared?
Get over it, you big wuss!
Yo, but like, let's be real though. That guy who finds out the chicken boo, like the only guy who sees the chicken boo is just a giant chicken, and he's like, guys, that's a chicken. That's not a doctor. You shouldn't listen to that guy. He's a big ass chicken. That's a chicken. And then the guy's like, the chicken's just like, see ya? that got us all to laugh just now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Good idea. Bad idea. Always still funny.
Very good bits.
Pinky in the brain.
I'm remembering this moment where like I don't remember the siblings.
Yakko is the one with the pants.
Wacko is the smaller
the
one?
Ringo,
Okay, so-
the Ringo Starr sounding one.
So
Yeah.
earlier
And
when
Dot's
I
the
was
girl.
talking about Wacko, I meant Yakko. My bad. So Wacko is like just sitting down and he's like, "We're all on the marble in the middle of the universe."
Yeah.
And he's just like, and then it zooms out.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah. To me, Animaniacs, another thing that's really bears mentioning about the Animaniacs is that, you know, a lot of it has to just do with how fast the media cycle is now in 2018. But Animaniacs exposed kids to elements of culture that they would never think about. Like Good Feathers, for example, the pigeons, like so few kids. Goodfellas is rated R. Like you can't watch that movie if you're a kid who's watching Animaniacs.
And it was what, early 80s?
At the
90s.
it's a pretty prescient reference, but it's like not.
Yeah.
Kids aren't like Goodfellas, man. Yeah,
Right.
You know, it's not
Sure.
like Power Rangers. So
Prince shows up one.
yeah,
like
the
fingerprints.
the fingerprints
That's
bit.
like
Yeah.
you want to talk an example of a show that the whole family can get something out of. It's Animaniacs.
Pinky in the Brain is like the brain is like Orson Welles. It's like
Yeah.
he
You know, I never
talks-
connected
He
that.
talks like this. He
Well,
is
it's,
Orson.
Maurice LaMarche.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It's like
He does that
it's
voice
like
a
his
lot.
voice.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's doing Orson Welles, and there's so much stuff like that in Animaniacs that is so rich and so good, and like it makes it kind of funny to look back because it's such a time capsule of like a time period. Like that's why to me, Animaniacs like goes beyond so many of the other like sort of pop culture shows because it grounds it in really solid sketch writing, really solid like each bit. It's like they don't give a shit whether it feels related or not. Like they're just their own little cartoons. Like we were talking about Dexter earlier, how kind of lame it is that it kind of like just does the bit and it's out. But imagine if Dexter was one of 6 things that happened in 20 minutes. And in that way, I think Animaniacs like invented a new kind of cartoon show almost. It's like Bullwinkle for us.
You said that like it was a good point that how 90s it was. Like, what about like people growing up today who have no reference point for that? Like, isn't that a disadvantage? Because Hey Arnold isn't.
It is
It
very.
isn't
Yeah,
segmented. That time
definitely-
isn't dated at all.
Definitely, it speaks to the human part rather than the culture. But the craft is so
It is-
unprecedented with the Animaniacs.
I agree, but I do think that is a good point. Hey
It's
Arnold
true.
is more timeless, and Animaniacs was at least at times
Heavily
talking
cemented.
about specific things that were happening
It's-
around
They
that
do
time.
they do a
Right.
sketch called Acquaintances that is just about shitting on friends.
Yeah, but like, come on, French.
It was a good sketch.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's the same thing that we had with the Magic School Bus. It's like science changed. Like it's you know, not completely educational anymore. It kind of teaches wrong facts. But like you gotta speak to the fact that the quality of those sketches is a level above anything else that was going on at the time. And there's enough sketches in there that just hinge on physical comedy, like Chicken Boo is just like that chicken looks funny. Like
Right.
the kid and the dog just gets hurt a lot. Like Slappy just hits people with her purse. Like
a lot of slapstick.
yeah, there's a lot of and like the biggest thing in Animaniacs is just like like the kissing and stuff. Like it's still grounded in Looney Tunes-esque comedy. It's still a Warner Brothers cartoon.
It's really well written.
But
too.
it's by far the smartest cartoon that's specifically for kids I've ever seen. So I don't know. I to me this is the hardest decision in this bracket so far for me.
It's a tough one.
I feel like it's just heart and soul versus laughter.
It's like
Yeah,
culture
I'm
versus
having-
person. Yeah.
I haven't really said it that much in this episode because I'm just sitting here thinking, like, I appreciate both of these just for completely different reasons, and I'm trying to figure out, I'm like, I don't know,
To me, it's the uniqueness of the Animaniacs format and the fact that it like made cartoons better. Like it like opened up.
it's certainly more unique.
Well, I
than
think it
Hey Arnold.
took like an older form of cartoon like Looney Tunes or something like that and sort of reimagined it a bit for a modern generation.
It brought a type of cartoon back.
I don't think it really invented anything new, but it sort of remixed and reinvented
It just
a bit.
it just threw something into the mix of the 90s that really like made people go like, "Oh." And the shows that came after it that kind of spun off of it, like Pinky and the Brain or
Tiny Toon
Freakazoid or
Adventures.
Hysteria or any of those shows that kind of had that same production cast, like they don't copy Animaniacs in terms. It's not like the dog in the house genre or the kids on the street genre. It just sort of like showed you like, kids don't really care about like a plot in a cartoon that much. You can just like hit shit over the head with a hammer and it's funny. And it gave
I
you
was gonna say, you're just the way you guys are describing Animaniacs' place in 90s cartoons reminds me a lot of like what Tom and Jerry must have been.
yeah, Tom and
Right.
Jerry,
Yeah.
or Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah,
like,
we're just being creative about. We're really good at being creative about this one thing.
Yeah.
Do you think kids today would like Animaniacs?
oh yeah.
I think they would like an updated version of Animaniacs. with,
That
like,
for sure I
the-
can agree.
yeah.
But do you think if you just sat
Maybe-
down like
maybe
a
the sketches that
10-year-old
aren't as dated.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm wondering because like I mean that doesn't necessarily matter,
It's
but
not-
I do think it is something. I don't know if you sat down like a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 15-year-old, would any of them like really love Animaniacs?
Yeah, it's not like it's not a show that hinges on references. It's still a kids show. Like the kids don't get the Goodfellas reference.
I mean,
kids-
yeah, like in the sketches I brought up, like the
Acquaintances,
yeah. Even if you didn't know what Friends was, it was still funny stuff going on.
I guess what I'm saying is, I mean, because like Tom and Jerry, I don't think Tom and Jerry's funny anymore, but it was funny back then. Comedy changes over time, so I think that inherently makes Animaniacs able to date a lot more than Hey Arnold would.
So you're
I don't know if
saying
I'm
Oh, it's
necessarily-
absolutely more data. Just the fact
don't know
that
if-
it's making references and like showing caricatures of celebrities.
Yeah,
So
but
you're saying comedy in general is like almost a weakness there because he's dating it?
I'm not even necessarily saying it's a weakness. I'm just bringing it up because I thought it was interesting.
Well, taste and comedy
It's-
do change over time.
Yeah, it's
that's
definitely
absolutely
has like a vaudeville vibe almost now. Like going back, I think it still had that. I think it has that on purpose, just from its inception. But going back, I could see like kind of like the not watching the artist because it's in black and white kind of vibe from some kids. But honestly, like if anything's, I feel like getting hit over the head with a hammer or a big chicken with big ass eyes that's just like trying to pretend like it's a human is timeless. I think it is. I think it does have that timeless quality.
No, Pinky. Not now.
Speaking of things that are not timeless, we're running out.
This episode is not timeless.
We're. Any last points before we have to move into voting?
I don't want to go into voting yet. I don't
It-
know.
It really feels like a vote between heart and soul,
Yeah.
or some like
This was hard.
Humanity
brain versus
pop,
heart.
Yeah, pop versus culture. No, pop versus.
Because Hey Arnold does have jokes in it, and
Yeah,
it's funny.
they're,
They're funny.
they're solid.
Yeah.
It's just not like moment for moment.
It's not
comedy.
a bit-driven show.
Right.
It's
No,
definitely
absolutely
more
not.
of a like heartfelt show.
I can vote first, I think. And
for it, man.
and I'm very torn, and I only just made up my mind. I love Animaniacs. I actually did watch it a lot as a kid as well. And I don't know. I just think Hey Arnold is a bigger package. It has more there. It is a funny show, but it teaches a lot of moral lessons. There's stories involved. There's character
Yeah.
development. Animaniacs nails what it does, but that's all that it does. So that's how I'm gonna tell myself right now that I'm voting for Hey Arnold and not think any further about it.
I feel like if I was to like track my moods throughout the day, I think more often than not I'm going to be in the mood for Hey Arnold than Animaniacs.
Yeah.
Just because of how focused it is, even though it's an excellent show. I think Hey Arnold's probably also more timeless, so I'm going to go Hey Arnold.
Maybe it's just because I'm a weird guy from LA who like lives that shallow pop culture lifestyle to the max. I'm obviously going Animaniacs on this one.
Or maybe it's just a really great show.
It is a fucking great show. No roasties to Hey Arnold. That show formed me as a kid, but I feel like Animaniacs, it did something that transcended just cartoons. I think it was like, I think it's one of the best TV shows of the 90s.
Damn it. Why couldn't you guys all agreed? I'm still, I think, viewing this conversation through the lens of like, okay, like if one had to survive, you know?
Yeah.
And it was the Magic School Bus Ed, Edd n Eddy thing all over again. Just like, I think the world it's not that it needs either one of these shows the same way that I'm like, oh, like edutainment like has a different kind of function.
Right.
But I do think that Hey Arnold has a certain special something that was more unique, whereas Animaniacs, as much as I love it, it's a reinterpretation of the Tom and Jerry's and Looney Tunes and
I feel
vaudeville slapstick.
I feel it.
And I think that's something that's lacking today from kids' cartoons.
I would love to see a new Animaniacs.
Or something along
something like something like that.
Absolutely.
Sketchy
Actually,
show like that.
they're rebooting Animaniacs.
They are.
No shit.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised in the
Hulu?
slightest
Yeah.
because we live in an era of everything old is new
That was
again. But
that was not a plug. They just it's cool. I think based on, and I'm trying to remain as impartial to this as possible, but the things that appeal to me as a person are the heart and soul more than the comedy is important. But Hey Arnold is a special show.
Uh-huh.
And I have to vote for that too.
You guys out there be the judge. You guys out there.
Oh, they're gonna be, and I want to see those comments.
I can't. What bad thing am I gonna say about Hey
This.
Arnold?
what bad thing can I say about
I
Animaniacs?
think a lot of
It's
people in the
just-
comments are just going to be have our view and be like, yeah, this is just like between a rock and a hard place.
It sucks, yeah.
This is a bracket of the best cartoons of the 90s, and
Yeah.
these are two of the best cartoons of the 90s.
Yeah.
And it sucks that they got put up against each other, but they...
Hey Arnold's got an exclamation point in the title. That says everything. It just jumps at you. Jumps into your
Guess we're gonna just have to take Pinky and the Brain out back and shoot him and bury that
I
dog.
don't think you need a gun for that. It's just a good,
Yes.
a good stump will do the
Eat
trick.
Chicken Boo.
Yeah.
Lock the Warner brothers and sister back in their tower.
Mm-hmm.
That psychiatrist
Imagination
is
is
gonna die
dead.
of old age.
Animaniacs still has a chance to be the winner of the losers bracket.
Yeah.
Which show do you think should have won? Let us know down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this, please remember, as always, to like and subscribe. We have new episodes of Madness every Tuesday and Thursday. And while you're here, check out earlier episodes of the series before we head into round 2.